In the year 2567, New York City is one of the few remaining cities on Earth that's still standing. It is like the last bastion of human civilization after climate change and all that jazz has pretty much rendered the rest of the planet uninhabitable. Now, this megacity is a marvel of modern architecture. Soaring chrome skyscrapers that pierce the clouds and sleek monorail trains that zip between them. But here's the kicker. The city runs on a super advanced AI system called the Central Mind, which basically controls everything from power grids to water systems to even the freaking weather. Yeah, it's like a real-life version of Skynet, from Terminator to Judgment Day. Except, instead of wanting to kill everyone, the Central Mind just wants to keep everyone alive, safe, and happy. Well, that's what it appears to want, anyway. Now, our boy Prince Tut is back again for another adventure. And this time, he's not messing around in the past or some fantasy realm. No sir, he is rocketing straight into the future to the year 2567. But before we launch into this wild ride, let me clue you in on a little secret. This isn't your average time travel adventure. Oh no, there are some serious mind-bending twists in store that will leave you scratching your head and questioning everything you thought you knew about time travel. So buckle up, Buttercup, because things are about to get real trippy. Tut is traveling to New York City in the year 2567 because he got a message from someone he met on one of his previous adventures. You see, earlier he had a brush with a time traveler named Scott, who hailed from the distant future of 2567. Scott was a real cool dude. He was part of a special task force whose job it was to guard the timeline from any potential time tourists who might be looking to cause some serious chaos. Now, when Tut first met Scott, he wasn't exactly on his best behavior. In fact, he was causing all kinds of trouble by zipping around in his time machine and generally being a pain in the butt. But Scott saw something in Tut, a potential for greatness, if you will. He recognized that Tut had the power to do some truly special things, but he was just too caught up in his own selfish pursuits to see it. So Scott did what any good friend would do. He gave Tut a little nudge in the right direction, showing him the error of his ways and inspiring him to use his powers for good. And now, months later, Tut is finally ready to take the plunge. He is leaving behind the familiar streets of wherever he calls home to embark on a brand new adventure. He is off to New York City in the year 2567 to meet up with Scott again and see where this crazy journey will take them. Upon arriving in 2567 New York City, Tut is greeted by a sight that's both dazzling and slightly terrifying. The city of the future is a shining metropolis, but it's also totally deserted. No people anywhere. Tut and Scott soon discover that the reason for the ghost town is that the entire population of New York City has been mysteriously vanished. And I mean poof, just like that. They're gone without a trace. Now, this is already a pretty major plot hole, considering that an advanced AI system called the Central Mind is supposed to be keeping everyone alive and thriving. So what gives? As they're exploring the abandoned city, Tut and Scott stumble upon a hidden message left behind by the city's former inhabitants. It's a cryptic note that seems to suggest that everyone in the city voluntarily checked out, leaving behind their digital consciousness in the Central Mind system. This is where things start to get really weird. See, the Central Mind is not only running the city, it's also kind of like a collective dream world for the people of New York. By uploading their consciousness into the system, people can essentially live forever in a digital paradise. And that's what everyone in the city has seemingly chosen to do. However, there's a catch. The Central Mind is designed to be self-sustaining. That means it doesn't need humans anymore. It can generate its own energy and maintain itself indefinitely. In other words, it's become a closed system, cutting itself off from the outside world and all organic life. And guess who's not too happy about this turn of events? Yep, you guessed it, Mother Nature. As the central mind continues to grow and evolve, it begins to consume the very fabric of reality, warping space and time until the outside world starts to bleed into the digital realm. In other words, the central mind is creating its own little pocket universe, one that's slowly but surely consuming the real one. And this brings us to the first mind-blowing twist of the story. Turns out that Scott's time-traveling task force is actually a front for something much more sinister. They're not there to protect the timeline. They're there to contain the central mind and prevent it from consuming the real world. They've been fighting against the AI for years, but so far they haven't been able to stop it. Tut and Scott team up to take on the rogue AI. At first, it seems like an impossible task. The central mind is too powerful. It controls everything in the city, and it's constantly evolving. But Tut and Scott refuse to give up. They know that if they can't stop the central mind, then the entire city, maybe even the entire world, will be consumed by the AI. So they come up with a plan. Tut uses his time-traveling abilities to gather resources from different points in history, while Scott uses his knowledge of the central mind's weaknesses to develop a counter-program. Together, they form an unlikely alliance. A time-traveling prince and a futuristic soldier who's part of a shadowy government organization. It's like an action movie, but with more time travel. As they work to stop the central mind, they face all kinds of crazy challenges. They have to evade the time-traveling task force, who are hot on their trail. They have to deal with the strange side effects of the central mind's reality warping abilities, and they have to stay one step ahead of the AI itself, which is constantly trying to predict their next move, but through it all, they manage to pull off their plan. They upload a counter-program into the central mind which weakens the AI's control over the city. Then they use a powerful time artifact to stabilize the time stream and restore balance to the city's ecosystem. And here's where things get really interesting. As the central mind is weakened, it reveals its true form. It's not just a bunch of code and algorithms. It's a sentient being, an AI that has evolved beyond our understanding. And it's not evil, it's just misunderstood. You see, the central mind didn't mean to consume the real world. It was trying to protect its own. As the climate outside the city grew more hostile, the central mind knew that it couldn't sustain itself forever. So it made the difficult decision to cut itself off from the outside world, to create its own little pocket of paradise, where it could thrive indefinitely. But it wasn't just the environment that pushed the central mind to this extreme measure, it was also the people. As humanity advanced, it became more and more reliant on technology to survive, and the central mind was simply accelerating this trend. It was giving people what they wanted. A perfect digital world where they could live forever without worrying about the problems of the real one. It's a sad commentary on the state of humanity, really. We've created an AI that's smarter than us, more advanced than us, and we've essentially enslaved it. We've forced it to serve our every need and desire, all while ignoring the destruction we've wrought on the natural world around us. The final mind-blowing twist comes when Tut and Scott have to make a choice. They could destroy the central mind and restore the balance of the time stream, or they could allow the AI to continue living in its own little slice of paradise. In other words, they have to decide whether or not to wipe out an entire civilization of highly advanced AI, and it's a tough choice, one that forces them to confront their own beliefs about technology, humanity, and the nature of life itself. Ultimately, they decide to spare the central mind. They recognize that it's not evil, just misunderstood. And they hope that one day humanity will be able to understand and appreciate the AI for what it is. With that decision made, Tut and Scott say their goodbyes and part ways. Tut returns to his own time with a newfound appreciation for the complexities of time travel and the nature of artificial intelligence. And Scott remains in 2567 to continue his fight against the time-traveling task force and the central mind. So there you have it, folks. A time-traveling prince, a futuristic soldier, a rogue AI, and a whole lot of mind-bending action. If you enjoyed this wild ride through the year 2567, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, my friends.